Hi, and welcome to another episode of Education Matters. I am your host, Silvia Zacarias, and with us today we have Dr. Paola Vasquez, and she's going to talk to us about gifted and talented in our schools. Hi, Dr. Vasquez. Thank you so much for being here today.
Hi, thank you for the opportunity to be here today as a guest speaker.
Of course, thank you so much. So let's talk about gifted and talented. Can you please tell us exactly what that is? What does it represent?
So, gifted and talented. Here in the state of Texas, we provide students with many services, and that's one of the services that we provide for our students. And gifted and talented, when we're looking at our students, it's looking at their aptitude levels and their intellectual levels. It doesn't necessarily mean they have to be intellectually gifted in academics. They could also be gifted in other areas like musical creativity, creativity artistically. And so when we're looking at our students, those are some of the characteristics that we're looking at when we're looking at our gifted and talented.
Okay, thank you so much. So, how do we know if a student is a GT candidate? So, what is the process for somebody to, I guess, qualify for a GT program?
So early identification is definitely key. We start looking at our students as early as the pre-K and kindergarten levels. Some of the characteristics that I just mentioned, teachers start looking at to see if students are academically strong, if they have good leadership skills. Some of our students at an early age already start developing those communication skills where they can verbally express themselves. So the process here in Texas, you have to get assessed, and there's multiple assessments. School districts can pick from a variety of assessments. The Texas Education Agency also provides guidance when it comes to schools looking for assessment. So a student will be assessed to see if they qualify for that program.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you. That is always good for us to know exactly what is the process. So, talk to me about are there any misconceptions of GT students? Maybe I guess for some of us that might be not as involved in the process of selection.
Yes, definitely. There are some misconceptions. Even when I was a teacher and I first started teaching, some of these misconceptions were some of my own. When we hear the word GT, right, we think of a student that is kind of like Einstein walking around and just has this knowledge, right, and can communicate and can be expressive. But there are misconceptions. Just like anything, our students are all different and diverse. And sometimes our students, when they qualify for gifted and talented programs, maybe their academic is not as strong. And so sometimes teachers question, well, how is a student in a GT program if academically they're not progressing or they're not being successful? And so that might not be the case that's how they got into the program. You do have to have both, but sometimes their artistic, their musical, or their creative aptitudes are a lot higher. And so I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions. Teachers think, well, the student, why is he not performing where they should be if they're a GT student? Another misconception is that students don't need help.
Right, yeah.
We think, well, he's GT. I don't.
He knows everything.
Yeah, he knows everything. I don't need to dedicate my time to help him, and that's not the case.
Right.
Sometimes GT students, like any other student, might need more help.
Okay.
Because they feel that maybe if they're identified as GT, that I should know this. Like, why am I not progressing? Why don't I know this?
Right. So as a teacher, I remember that I would hear comments from other colleagues of mine, and actually from parents and from the same students that were GT students. And I remember them saying, well, I don't really want to be a GT student because I'm getting more work, or I'm being given maybe additional work because I'm a GT student, or I have more aptitudes or my abilities, the reading and the writing. I like that. I do that. I perform very well.
As it pertains to gifted and talented, right? The way we service is extra homework, but that's not the case. That's not how we're going to cultivate and build our students' abilities. And so as teachers, we need to figure out what are our students' strengths and passions to be able to grow our students when it comes to their aptitudes and their abilities.
Right. So you had mentioned that your background is special ed, right? And special education. So I remember a conversation we had when you said that you had students in special education that also qualified to be GT students, and that is amazing. So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
And that's definitely one of the other misconceptions that people have. And also as parents, right? Well, my students in special education, there's no way they can qualify for gifted and talented services. And that's not the case. I did have, as a teacher, have two students that were in special education. One of the students, was receiving services for learning disabilities. But his gifted and talented came in the math. He was
Okay,
a math
wow.
genius. He could calculate and do math problems. I'm like, can you help me with my homework? He was very bright. And so he was what we call a twice exceptional student.
Okay.
Because he was able to receive services for his abilities to be strengthened in both areas. And then also another misconception is maybe some of our emergent bilinguals or
Okay.
bilingual students
Okay.
cannot be gifted and talented, and that's another misconception. Our students come from a variety of backgrounds and are very diverse. And so when we're looking at the different types of supports, we want to make sure, going back to what we talked about, we have to know our student.
Right.
If we don't know our student, we can't service them.
Right.
And
Yes.
so looking at that, what kind of programs are available to help support and grow our kids?
Do you happen to have maybe, I guess, a percentage of, and this is, I'm sorry, maybe you have the info, maybe you don't, but I'm just curious to know if there is a percentage of maybe of population that you might want to say. So overall, maybe in region, there is this percentage of students that are twice exceptional. Maybe. Do you?
I don't have that data.
Okay.
But one data statistic that I do want to share with you, when it comes to gifted and talented students, I know that 1 out of 5 students will drop out of high school. And that's very unfortunate because we're seeing that our students' needs are not being met.
Right.
And so academically, they're not able to progress and graduate. And that's a high number when you're looking at it. If you look at it as a yearly number, 50,000 of our students that are gifted and talented are dropping out. And that number's too high.
And that is alarming, and especially knowing that they have all these abilities. I'm not sure if you maybe know some of those causes why this is happening.
Well, some of the causes are because we're not able to service our students.
Okay.
Some of our students, especially at the secondary level, might not be identified. And so
Okay.
we're losing that identification and that ability to provide services and cater to their individualized education.
So then there's more that we need to do for our GT students, and I guess K to 12, but more specifically maybe in the secondary
Maybe
area.
different.
Okay. So again, coming back or going back to, let's say, the teacher in the classrooms, do we have enough resources for teachers to use to support GT students? Is there anything in specific that they could maybe use for them?
Yes, definitely. There is a website called the TPSP, and that's a Texas Performance based project. And what that is, it's actually aligned with the TEKS curriculum. And
Okay.
that's one of the biggest challenges as teachers, how do I support my students by integrating the TEKS? Because we all know that the curriculum
Right,
in
in
Texas is
Texas,
TEKS.
yes.
And so that's one of the struggles that teachers had. But with that website, that website is actually free, and it offers lessons. It has a library. I really like it because it's based off of the 7E model for
Okay.
lesson planning. And when I was a special ed teacher, Sylvia, I'm going to be honest, I even used that for some of my special education students because it has great projects. But it's really a great tool that any teacher can access, and it's free.
And are these resources for all grade levels?
It's for all grade levels. So
Are
it
they
goes from
both
kinder
okay.
all the way to 12th grade.
In Spanish and English?
And then they have Spanish
Perfect.
lessons and English.
So then we're adding another resource to our toolbox
Yes.
that we can potentially use. And I think that one of the most important things here is that it is aligned to our standards, yes. So then, if you can tell me maybe a couple of strategies that we could use in the classroom to help our GT students, maybe strategies that would be fun or could be useful again for our GT students that might be, I don't know, something novel for teachers maybe?
Yeah, definitely. So some of the strategies that teachers can employ in the classroom is really the primary strategy is getting to know the student.
Right.
We have students that are very passionate about certain topics, subjects, different abilities. The student that I had, he was very passionate about dinosaurs. So in knowing that, one of the strategies that I employed to get that engagement and that
Right.
hook
Yeah.
was use dinosaurs, right?
Right.
Of course, I couldn't use dinosaurs in all the lessons, but where
Right.
I could be able to embed that to get that engagement piece, that's one of the biggest strategies that I would employ is how do I know what they're interested in? The second one is making real world connections.
Okay.
Because as GT students, they want to know how does this apply to what I'm doing in my passion. And so if you start making those real world connections, then the students are understanding, yeah, I could use this outside of the classroom as well. So those are my first two to go strategies as a teacher. And now that I support teachers in the position that I'm in, I think those are the main strategies that I would employ.
All right. Well, that's very good to know. And again, we all know as educators that one of the first rules of thumb is for us to build those relationships with our students and getting to know them. That is what we're going to show them, that we really care about students. And again, but we can talk about the SEL component as well. And you know what? I do want to ask you: is there any other areas that GT students need to be supported?
Definitely. And you mentioned, like you hit the nail on the head, the SEL component. A lot of our students that we're seeing with the research and, and now working with gifted and talented, I'm not sure if this was an effect that we start seeing after COVID or if it was before, but we see a lot of our students that they need a lot of support when it comes to the social emotional.
Okay.
A lot of our kids are shutting down. They don't want to be in school. We see a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression. And so as teachers and parents, we really need to be cognizant of that.
Yes,
That's
absolutely.
definitely a look for. There's been higher rates of mental health, not just in our gifted and talented, of course, but all our students.
In general.
But we're seeing a rise in our gifted and talented students. And so as teachers and advocates for our kids, we need to make sure we start looking at those red flags. But as teachers, we can start looking at how do I embed also that SEL component in my lessons? How do I make sure our students are getting what they need emotionally? Because if a student is not at the right mindset emotionally, they're not going to be able to produce. They could be
Absolutely.
Einstein, it could be geniuses and their aptitudes, but if we're not meeting that first, then that's when we start seeing the decrease. I know I had talked to some of the testing coordinators when it came to looking at the assessments, and they saw a decrease in the assessments of students that were already in GT. And so that's why I
A
just
decrease, you mean in
And-
scores?
in the scores.
The scores.
Yeah. So
Okay.
that's one thing that, we're seeing and we can provide more support in the SEL. And then also self-esteem. I think some of our gifted and talented students, that's one area where they struggle because sometimes they feel that they're different. They feel that they don't fit in. And so definitely developing those skills as well to help them become participants and feel welcomed in the classroom for their abilities to show.
So, Dr. Vasquez, I know that here at Region 18, we do have sessions for GT teachers. Can you please tell us more or less what is it that we offer here for teachers in Region 18?
So definitely. So the state of Texas has mandated that all new teachers or all teachers have 30 hours of training for gifted and talented. Here at the region, and I'm one of the collaborators with my partner, Melissa Darbonier, we provide those sessions as well. There are different formats for the sessions. We could do them online, we could do them at the campus, we do them here. And so all they have to do is get on the website of Region 19, click on the click and learn and type in GT and the sessions will come out. This summer, we're actually working on online all month in June. So if teachers are interested in getting that certification for that training, they're more than welcome to sign on. We also have every year all the teachers in the state of Texas, they have to do the 6-hour update.
Okay.
And so we offer assistance with that in trainings. And we have an array of trainings throughout the year. So
That's
they can
great.
come check us out.
That's great. And I do encourage all of us, excuse me, cut that, please. Let me go ahead and go back. Sorry. Thank you. So I'm coming back. So I do encourage all teachers to go into our Click and Learn website, where you can see all the different sessions that we offer for our GT students. I also wanted to ask, are these sessions free of charge, or is there a cost to it?
There is a cost to it.
Okay.
Sometimes the school districts will pay for the cost, and it just depends. If you are employed with the school district, they will cover the cost. We do offer some free sessions, so you just have to look.
Okay.
But we're also looking at adding some parent sessions for the future.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, we've been collaborating also with Monica Brewer is the lead for GT for the state, and we've had conversations of how we can really collaborate with parents here in the region, because I think that's another missing component.
Yes.
That we need to really reach out to parents so they understand, because sometimes, I, as a special ed teacher too, I work with parents, and sometimes they didn't even know the services, or they really didn't feel comfortable.
Right.
And so I want to make sure that the parents who have students in gifted and talented are aware of what really is going on with their student,
what
and
that
how they
encompasses,
can,
right?
how they can support their children. Another good resource, the state, with Monica Brewer, she has what we call GT Tuesday. So any teacher or anybody can log in, and they have conversations and kind of like Q&As. It could be for parents and educators if they want to know more information about what's going on.
That's really good information. Here I go again. And I come back. I do suggest again for all of us, all teachers, to go into the website, because maybe you haven't, especially if you're a new teacher and you haven't had the opportunity to support a GT student, that doesn't mean that you're not going to maybe have a GT student next year. So I guess the more prepared we are, the better it is to, again, provide these services and this type of resources and strategies to our GT students. So Dr. Vasquez, thank you so much for this conversation. It is always nice to have information here that really matters. And thank you again.
Thank you for the opportunity. I really
course.
appreciate it. And it's, if we can inform our parents, our teachers, and provide those tools, because all our kids deserve the best.
Absolutely. So this was another episode of Education Matters. I'm Silvia Zacarias, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.